Hey everyone, welcome to Co-op Existence, the channel where we play video games and we have deep chats. You know, you might not know this about us, but we're just a couple of guys in our late 20s and early 30s, and recently we've been faced with some milestone decisions. And so, in today's deep chat, we talk about how we approach making really important decisions, how we honor our commitments, and how to navigate compromise in a healthy way. If you enjoy our videos, please make sure that you like the video and subscribe to our channel. That would really mean a lot. And also leave us some comments on what you think. We would love to hear from you as well. Before we jump into today's video, it looks like we're intercepting a message from outer space. Yeah, it looks like it's coming from our friends and fellow podcasters over at Grand Rapidians Play Video Games. Let's see what they have to say.
Life on a spaceship can be boring. That's what I hear, though life aboard the Oz-9 is mostly about careening from one near disaster to the next. To fend off boredom, Gated Galaxies outfitted their ships with a number of challenges, like bombs, poisoned crew meals, and assassins. One nice thing they did, and we can only assume it was accidental, was to include the old-time Earth podcast, Grand Rapidians Play Video Games. Hosted by video game world record holders Willie, Ginger, and usually Simon, they review beers, describe video games, recommend other podcasts, and generally crack wise and have a grand old time. Not that we can enjoy any of the things they recommend, but whatever. Grand Rapidians Play Video Games, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
That's right, if you enjoy beers and video games, make sure you check out our friends over at Grand Rapidians Play Video Games anywhere where you enjoy podcasts today. Without further ado, let's jump into today's podcast episode, Commitments and Compromises.
I am very much in a place where, it feels like my wife and I decided on a change and it was a sudden decision.
Right.
And on the surface level, like, you look at sudden decisions and you question, like, okay, so what's the reasoning behind it? What's your motivation for wanting to make a change? Is it because you're unhappy and you want to start over? Which means deal with your shit first, right? Like, collect yourself as a person, because it doesn't matter how many times you change the scenery, you're going to take those problems there too.
Absolutely.
Or
100%.
Is it because you've just finished the chapter, right? Like, you've closed the book and you're ready to move on into the new season ahead of you. Like, I'm 28 years old. My wife is 27. It's ridiculous for me to assume that I have at least, if I'm lucky, I have at least 4 times the amount of life ahead of me than I've already lived. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's ridiculous for me to assume that now in this early stage of my life that I would have found the thing that brings me fulfillment.
Yeah.
Permanently, you know? Like, I'm still trying shit out. Sure. I don't know what I like yet. Like, I'm trying to figure out life and marriage and work and how to balance those things, and then passions and creative outlets. And, like, I think people are too hard on themselves too early, and they don't give themselves the freedom to experiment and just try life out and figure it out.
Try things, 100%.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% right. And for me, I mean, I think for me, I'm getting to the point where I actually do want to settle down and start a family.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, I don't think South Africa is the place that I want to do that. Like, I don't, I'm not speaking negativity. I think we had this conversation about negativity versus realism.
Yeah.
And for me, like, if I look at the future of our country realistically, taking faith out of the equation, I'm like, do I want a better life for my future kids and family or whatever? Yeah, of course I do. And am I going to have that in South Africa the way it looks like right now? No. With the way the economy's like, and it looks like, where any day could be like we're on the brink of a civil war, which, I even said to Bianca, like, I think a great place to raise a family would potentially be America. Like, there's a lot. I quoted it and said it's the land of opportunity. So I want to be like them Irish people and go over there with like $20 in my pocket and start a new life. That's kind of what I want to do. Yeah. And now we've got these these opportunities to go over. and potentially, start a job still in ministry with something that's more intimate than what we know, which I'm so pumped about. Like, because I honestly have nothing against mega churches unless it's the type of things that we dislike about mega churches. And I honestly feel like our church in South Africa is slowly turning into that, and I want to get away from that. Because no matter what you say or how much you talk about things and be realistic about things, like, there's the stigma. Like, if I'm saying something, like, it's perceived as negative, and I don't understand why, because I'm probably the most positive guy that people on our team could have ever
that's
met.
true.
And I'm just like, look, I've seen things. I've been in our church for 13 years now, and been on staff for 10 years in June. Like, I've seen stuff, and it's not potentially something I, anyway.
Yeah.
I'm ranting, and I probably shouldn't.
But that makes a lot of sense, right? Because, like, one thing that I've been thinking about too is when my wife and I got married, we made a pretty bold decision in that we would be moving from Florida, where our family is at, to Charlotte.
Yeah. Right.
And we were sold on this idea, and it was a pretty major decision for us to make as like a newlywed first-time couple. We're gonna move away from our families, leave all that shit behind, and go start a life in a new city that can be just brand new for us.
Right.
And I was bought into that vision, and she was bought into that vision, and that's what's been kind of carrying us over the last, it's going to be like 3 years soon.
Right.
And now I'm faced with another major decision, like we are as a couple. Like, okay, well, do we move back to Florida? And I'm really struggling with that, because for some reason I feel so committed and bought into the person that I was 3 years ago that made the decision to move here. And I feel like if I move back to Florida, it's me giving up on who that person was. But the truth is, I've been here through 3 years of that journey, and maybe I'm not the same guy anymore, and maybe we're not the same couple anymore. Whereas when we first got married, we valued independence, we valued access, we wanted to be in a big city with a lot of access to things, we valued a new start, we valued like blank slate, right? Like, it was just us together, not surrounded by our family or outside influences. We were just going to figure out how to build our marriage. And we valued those things, and then we grew closer, and we grew older, and we grew more confident in who we are, and now we value things like intimacy and family and location, or routine. Like, we don't need there's no need for sporadic adventure. We prefer routine with planned out adventure, like structure.
Right. That sounds great.
Right? And stability, and so, like, we're different people, and we know what we want in life now. And so me making a decision to move back to Florida and be closer to people isn't me giving up on that dream I had 3 years ago. It's actually me realizing...
Dude, not at all.
That's the thought. It's just like, I'm not giving up on anything. I'm just growing up and realizing that some things are more important than others.
But also, even if those 3 years that you guys lived in Charlotte was just for the two of you and not even for career, that's more than enough of your goal that you've reached. Because for me, marriage has always been priority, and made is probably like a strong word, but I helped people realize that early on in church, working for a church. Like, my marriage is always going to take priority above anything. And all that to say, just the fact that that even if that was just the actual goal for you guys, I would say, man, that is brilliant. The fact that you guys did the move and spent your 3 years kind of independently, because I think your first 4 years is probably the most important years of marriage, where you actually get to know one another. My first year of marriage was crap. I hated it because it was so tough.
What was tough about it?
Because, oh, dude, it's just figuring out how different my wife and I was.
Yeah.
We're actually so different, but it's honestly one of those opposites. It has to be one of those opposites attract things, because I, for example, she is, you know Friends, obviously, right? The show Friends. And you know how Monica is in Friends, like a real cleaning maniac?
Yeah.
Now, my wife used to be like that, like in a hectic type of way. And I'm not. Like, after dinner, I'd love to just sit down, kick back and relax, and then I'll clean up later the evening or the next day. But for her, it has to be done right after dinner.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a stupid little example, but like...
No, but, hey, listen, if you're married, you get it. Like, little things like that just have a way of...
Yeah.
Being bigger than
it was
should
terrible.
be.
Like, dude, in our first year, like, I thought we were not gonna make it. Like, I 100% thought, nah, this is, you know, I love her with all my heart, but I don't see this panning out even a little bit. But again, like, then we started to learn about, you know, sacrifice and what's the other word? There's a smarter word for it. Compromise. That's the one.
The magic word in marriage is compromise.
Compromise. So we honestly learned about compromise, and compromising was hard at first, but I felt like when we honestly learned how to compromise and realized we're on the same team and all that crap, you know, it became easier, because I had to accept her for who she is, and she had to accept me for who I am.
Yeah.
And we kind of learned that. Hey, look at you.
Oh, that's me. What's up?
Yeah, dude. Anyway, so that was very hard for us in the first year of marriage, and you know, we kind of needed some form of independence as well. So all that said, to say, like, I think that first year of your guys' marriage kind of just...
It's about what you're saying. It's interesting because, like, I'm in a point. So my wife and I are married for 2 years. Like, in our third year, we're going to complete 3 years of marriage. And I am in that. I'm still kind of, or we're still kind of in that stage where we're like figuring out how to accept each other for who we are and like what we can't change about the other person. And people hear that, and I think they think about it way deeper than it needs to be.
Right.
It's just little things. It's just little things here or there that you have to like become accustomed to, and how you can support each other grow and like do this thing well. And she'll tell you too, like, there's sometimes like I do things that just kill her and drive her crazy, but it doesn't mean she loves me any less. She's just trying to figure out how to love me in those moments.
In spite of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I totally get it. I totally get that.
And it's really sad that so many people like can't get their own egos out of the way enough to like they just give up at that stage. And so for a lot of people that's the only thing they know marriage as, because they can't see themselves like ever being a big enough person to just like compromise.
Yeah,
they just quit.
Is
like,
that is that word again?
Compromise.
Word of the day.
Word of the day, man.
No, it's so true, and it's I mean, compromise is something that you kind of have to, I don't want to use the word master, because I don't feel like it's something we can master, like master, because I think as human beings, like, our ego is always at the center point of ourselves. Like, it doesn't matter. I believe, like, it doesn't matter how humble you are or whatever, like, there's always something about you that wants to experience, you know, put yourself at the center of certain scenarios or whatever. Anyway, and even for me, because I mean, you know, a lot of people would sometimes say that I'm too humble, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Right.
A lot of people think, oh, you're too humble. That is, and a lot of people think that's amazing, but it's not. It's actually dangerous, because there's that difference between thinking of yourself less and thinking less of yourself, you know. So
bro, you know, kind of on that topic too, a side tangent, like maybe this can be a conversation for another day.
Right.
On that topic, like, people who, I don't think people understand what humility means. Like, we have such a toxic view, and I think it's perpetuated mostly by like church experiences of what humility looks like, where you have to make yourself less than so that something else can become exalted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But But the Bible describes humility as like, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth, right? But the translation means is like, blessed is the person who, I think it exactly translates to, blessed is the person who is who is strong, or but who holds a sword and knows how to use it, but chooses not to.
Yeah.
So in other words, like, it's better to be like a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and that's what humility means. It's like, it's not because I don't have confidence or faith in myself. It's because I choose to just remove myself from the situation and let that be the focus instead of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big thing for a marriage. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big thing for marriage as well. And the ego thing gets in the way of so many marriages, and I think it's one of the biggest things that lead to divorces.
Yeah, 100%.
And again, not that I'm saying we've mastered it. There's still a lot of things that we can learn.
Yeah.
So many things that we can learn. But we have seen a lot of shit in our lives, so I can put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been married for 13 years this year.
Oh, congratulations! So that's amazing,
dude. It's been a long road.
you know what makes me excited about marriage is that like, you don't really see it this way if you're looking at it in the short term, but like, we are such different people today. And I know, like, I can reflect enough on my marriage at this point to see, like, wow, look at how much we grew through, right?
Yeah.
And that makes me excited for, like, how different it's going to look in the future. Like, what is our marriage going to look like when all of these petty things that I think are important right now just suddenly they're not important anymore, you know? Like, man, that gives me something to look forward to, is, like, look at how much changed, and look at how much more, like how much better it's gonna get.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and there's always, like, one thing we decided early in our marriage. We said, like, the two of us are on the same team, so whatever happens, whatever argument happens, we need to try and figure out. And it's not, again, I'm probably busy making it sound way easier than it actually is, but that whole thing about I need to find a way for her to win an argument, and she needs to find a way for me to win an argument. Now, that takes a lot of trust and a lot of thought, and like a lot of swallowing your pride as well. But it gets easier with the years. Now, we've always said, like, we're on the same team no matter what. And doesn't matter what family does at the end of the day, we're still on the same team. And the other thing is, there's always something to laugh about. Like, always.
That's true.
And if there isn't, we find something to laugh about. And if we still can't find something, we just put on an episode of Friends. Yeah. Because that's something we love doing. But point being, it's we still go through a lot of stuff. Like, for example, Bianca's parents, like, divorced, I think, a couple of years ago, which is weird when it happens. When you've been married for quite a while, and now your parents are going through the divorce. Now, obviously, for us trying to build our own marriage, like, seeing your parents getting divorced, potentially
messes you up a bit,
because it's kind of like the first people you look at when it's when you talk about marriage, successful marriages, and all those things. And even for my parents divorced literally a year into my marriage, and it happened so suddenly. So from that point, like, my wife kept asking me, like, are you going to be okay and stuff like that, because I love my parents. I looked up to their marriage and whatever, so it was quite a shock. And I just told it, look, I have our marriage to focus on right now, so I'm not going to get caught in the pettiness of their marriage and what they have to do.
Yeah.
So those kind of decisions, and then obviously her parents go through it. Now, what I want to get to is the thing that we're struggling with now is her dad got a new girlfriend because he went on like a rebellion streak where he wanted to hang out with like younger people. He wanted to go out with the boys and have drinks and stuff. And he's like a middle-aged man. He's like 62 or something years old now. So it's weird. and now he's met a woman that is giving. Her kids are giving her dad more than what we're giving him, because we haven't really talked about and planned for kids just yet and stuff like that. But she's got kids, has got grandkids, and her grandkids is calling him grandpa, and which is weird because it's weird because they're not even married yet. They've just been dating for like I think like 3 months or whatever. So it's strange. So now she's struggling with stuff like that, and I have to figure out how am I going to support her, because this morning we were sitting at breakfast and she got like all emotional about it. She doesn't know how to deal with it. She wants to go see a psychiatrist, and I'm like, yeah, totally. I mean, go do that if you feel it's going to help, but only because I don't know what to say. So dealing with stuff like that, even like later on in all the years of being married and stuff, it catches you off guard, and you need to figure out exactly like, holy crap, like what do I do? Am I just gonna tell some more fart jokes or whatever to make a laugh, or stuff like that.
Yikes, man.
No, it gets to a point where we're kind of forced to adult and just say, hey, this is how, and also make that decision again of, hey, look, we've got other stuff that we have to focus on right now. And
it's interesting, like we're both like, we can play games, we have like all of these common interests, and we relate to each other on a lot of levels. But you're 13 years into your marriage, and I'm 2 years into mine, right? Or going 3 years into mine.
Right.
And you're able to talk about your marriage from a perspective that me and my wife just aren't in yet, because there's so much more for us to get to know, and it's like so inspiring. Like, it makes me look forward to the type of relationship that we can develop and grow and grow for ourselves,
Right.
I think if people spoke about marriage from this perspective more often, like, you always hear about, like, the common themes are, oh, marriage is so hard, or it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, or marriage is so difficult. But you know what? Like, sometimes it's not that hard. Like, sometimes it's easy if you're willing to get over yourself a little bit and like swallow your pride.
Bro.
It doesn't. We make it harder than it has to be. I think a lot more people our age wouldn't be so hesitant on making that kind of commitment, because you don't hear about that perspective of marriage very often, and it's kind of sad, because it really is. It's a beautiful thing.
It is, and people don't talk about the great things about marriage, because there's a lot more great things about marriage than there is about, the frustrating things. But I mean, again, I think it's a human approach to always think the negative of things and not seeing the beauty in a situation. And I think that's why depression rules this world. It's because people always think the worst of everything. But no one wants. It's almost like people are sabotaging their own happiness, and it's effing sad, dude.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's exactly what you say, and I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I really appreciate you saying that, like a lot, because I find it really encouraging. But I think, for example, there are things that you guys have learned in your marriage that we can learn from. And that's what, like the other day when I stayed over at Nick's place, like we talked about, but he mentioned something, about an approach they have in their marriage, and I mean they've only been married for I think like a year and a half or 2 years or whatever, and I thought, oh man, that's a really good approach, and like something that I've never thought of in my marriage, so that thing about like, I love speaking to other guys about how they approach marriage, not even caring about like how long like people have been married, because I I think it's exciting to hear like stuff that you guys are approaching, especially with big decisions like what you're facing with now, and how you guys approach it, because at the end of the day, I think we're figuring a lot out about our approach in general. Like how you approach things, how I approach things, how Nick approaches things.
Yeah.
And just kind of take it from there, and you know, because I think you guys are pretty smart, and it's cool. It's cool to kind of learn from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are pretty smart too. It's interesting because like so many people don't make the decision to grow up. You know, like they keep trying to, again, it's that same theme, like be committed to that person that they were when they were like 16 or 17 or 18 years old. Like they never stop to reassess who they are, where life has taken them, because there's some shit you just can't plan for. And so sometimes life takes you in a different direction, and that's okay. But like you got to stop and reassess who you are every once in a while and make some decisions. That's what I think a lot of people refer to as growing up. It means you're like letting go of things that were important to you when you were younger because they no longer are. And just realizing that there are new things that are important to you that you just have to make a priority, and then you grow up, right?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Couldn't have said it better myself.
People don't want to grow up. They want to be attached to who they were when they're 18 or for whatever reason. And I think, you know what, growing up isn't scary. It's a great adventure, and life gets a lot more becomes a lot more worth living, I think, the more that you allow yourself to grow up and just embrace it. You know, that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, adulting does suck. Like making those decisions, it does suck because you don't want to make those decisions. But I think, you know, if you're surrounded with the right kind of people and that could kind of, you know, speak into. I mean, I don't usually let anybody speak into things, but I love hearing people out. And like a topic like this, I wouldn't have this conversation with just anybody. Yeah. Unless I really know like people are going to add value to it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm a little stubborn like that. And it's crazy how I have this kind of conversation outside of my church circle because I just think it's for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but you've outgrown them.
Absolutely, dude. Like it just feels like, and there's a guy. I mean, he's also American. I think like he was kind of like the last kind of mentor that I have. And one of the things he said, like he made an observation saying, and this is going to sound very like extremely arrogant if I say it, but I don't care. Like it is what it is. And he said that at the moment you're a I can't remember the exact words, but it was like a racehorse kind of deal, like a something pound racehorse in a pony race. Or something
I get
like
that.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, the American equivalent is like you're a big fish in a small pond.
Yes. It's something like that. And, you know, I said to him, look, I never thought about it that way, but it feels like it, you know, and it frustrates me because, like, you got these, again, I mean, it's going to make me sound not only arrogant, but old, but, like, you got all these younger people around you that are making, like, dumb idiot decisions, and you're like, this is stupid.
Yeah, but you know what? That's only arrogant if you are focused on the small pond, right? Because you're not saying that there aren't much larger ponds where you are a small fish in those ponds out there in this massive universe, right? Like there are clearly situations in which you are not the best equipped person in the room, and that's okay. That's what life. That's where life is fun, right? When you're in those seasons of growing and growing your surroundings, but eventually you got to move on. And
yeah, for sure, dude.
It's not that there's anything wrong with the pond that you're in. It's just life isn't about staying in the same pond your whole life, you know? That's the kind of enthusiasm and confidence you need when you're faced with making these decisions. You have to put yourself in a good state of mind. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing from a place of compromise, and that's not always a great place to be in when you're making such significant life-changing decisions, you know?
Yeah, it's such a waste of life to do that.
It is. You live second-guessing yourself, and sometimes you talk yourself out of the opportunity before it ever even exists.
100%. That.
You just got to put yourself out there, try new things. I think that's the moral of the story.
That's the only way you're going to see what's right and what's not right.
Yeah,
And,
marriage is great.
And
it's easy if you try.
Yeah.
Don't be committed to who you were yesterday. It's okay to go through stages.
Yeah.
Don't be a big fish in
Yeah.
a small pond.
Yeah. And don't be a dick.
And don't be a dick. That life is best lived when you play it in co-op.
Co-op
exists, yes!
Yeah.
Yeah!
Yeah, dude. It's so true. So true.
Thank you so much for watching our episode today. If you enjoyed that episode, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel. And again, leave us comments on your thoughts. How have you navigated change in the past? How have you faced making some really large life decisions in the past? Thanks again for checking us out. And remember that life's just a game, and it's best played when you play it in co-op.